Welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. Our theme for 2025 is the future of work. Meaning is the new money. In a world shaped by rapid innovation and constant change, the pursuit of purpose and impact has never been more important. I'm Dr. John D'Antico, your host, bringing over 30 years of experience in leadership, strategic thinking, and purpose-driven innovation. Here, we tackle the pressing challenges of our time, from the rise of artificial intelligence to the growing need for meaning in the workplace. Together, we'll uncover how leaders can ethically integrate AI to enhance decision-making and keep humanity at the heart of their organizations. Remember, amidst all the technological advancements, in the end, it's always about the people. This podcast is your resource for actionable tools, thought-provoking discussions, and inspiring stories. It's time to go beyond leadership development and focus on leadership impact, creating workplaces where people thrive, innovation flourishes, and meaning truly becomes the new currency. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, let's throttle up and dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. John D'Antico. With me today is Michael Forman. Michael is a dynamic speaker, best-selling author, and relationship-building strategist who transforms the world of business networking into something both powerful and profitable. Known for his exceptional communication skills and engaging presence, Michael is the author of Networking Unleashed and a go-to expert for professionals looking to build real connections that drive results. A proud U.S. Air Force veteran and Desert Storm alum, Michael brings decades of experience across law, banking, and entrepreneurship, all centered around one core skill: connection. His workshops, keynote presentations, and coaching programs have consistently helped companies enhance profitability by unlocking the power of authentic networking. Michael has been featured in numerous articles and is a sought-after voice on turning conversations into impact, whether on stage or in a boardroom. He brings humor, heart, and hard-earned wisdom to every engagement. When he's not helping others master the art of connection, you'll find him with his wife and two sons in Cumming, Georgia. And I am pleased and honored to have Michael here today, a fellow veteran. Welcome, Michael. How are you today?
Thank you. It's wonderful being here, and I'm looking forward to this podcast.
Great to hear it. Mike, let's begin with my question that I'm using to demonstrate my personal touch this year, and that is, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and what were some of the early influences in your life.
Well, I grew up about 100 years ago in New York. I grew up in the suburbs of New York, Rockland County, various towns. I grew up with a single mom, and she brought up three boys. All three of us have been successful in different ways. She was a very smart woman, but very loving. That's where I think I get most of my connection experience from. But I grew up and I went to the military. There was several people that I always looked up to, but there was one gentleman, a master gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, and I said I wanted to go into the military. And he said, okay, don't go in the Army, don't go in the Marines. And I was like, wait a second, you're a Marine. What are you telling me not to? He goes, no, go in the Air Force or Navy. I said, okay. So I chose the Air Force. I put in 9 years, Desert Storm. I did very well. I became a master sergeant in the Air Force. I had my own businesses, pizzerias, restaurants, a graphic design studio. Then I went to the corporate life. I went through the mortgage business to a law firm. I was a sales director, marketing, that kind of thing. But after all that, I was the face of the companies. I was the face of the mortgage firm. I was the face of the law firm. And I was always teaching and doing the presentations. So I said, I could do this myself. That's when I ventured out and moved down here to Georgia and started my career as a public speaker.
Wonderful. Nothing goes to waste. Everything you learn in life adds up, creates a different synergy of all the things that you've learned. I live by the code, never be afraid to learn something new because you'll be different tomorrow because of the things that you've learned today. I truly appreciate that. Let me ask you this, Mike. You've been called a master at making networking fun and profitable. What's the biggest mindset shift professionals need to make to experience both?
The first thing you have to learn, because I went to the school of hard knocks, I learned what not to do before I learned what to do. That was very hard lessons to learn. But the first thing you have to remember when you walk into a networking environment is not to talk. That's the world's worst thing to do. Because I used to do that. I used to walk in, talk, everything. I would not listen to anybody, but unload everything that I had to sell or do. So that is the absolute wrong thing to do. When you go in, it's called active listening. When you walk into a networking event and you're up to a table, let's say there's 300 people, you don't say a word. You listen for the conversation. Is this a conversation that I want to be a part of? It's not, okay, the next table. But if it is, wait for the conversation to come around. You have to say something rather important because you don't want to seem like a deadhead because you're just answering a question. But you want to say something enough for the two people, three people, whatever, to turn to you and say, can you explain that? That is your invitation to the conversation.
Yeah, very interesting. I agree with you 100%. It's the same thing that guides great marketing. You have to solve an individual's issues and problems rather than just coming in and telling them all about you. You can't solve those problems unless you hear them, understand them, accept them, and then eventually apply some knowledge or experience that might help that individual. So they go absolutely hand in hand. Any reflection on that?
When you go to a networking event, you have to go with something called a servant's heart, right? You have to look to give, not receive. So your first instinct when speaking with whatever person that you are, I always think of form, FORM, family, occupation, recreation, and a message. As they're talking, you don't come up with the next thing that you want to talk about. You have to talk about what they're talking to you about. So you basically listen to them and you respond with what they said and then what you want to add to it. You're going there as a problem solver. They have a problem and you have to figure that part out.
I agree. I'd like to ask you this specific question. I've seen many things written about this over the years, and that is that networking isn't just the fact that you meet and you speak with someone. Talk about the fact that networking is really about developing relationships.
Ever since the pandemic, it's building relationships. When I was in the mortgage business, I used to go to events. When I was going to the School of Hard Knocks, I'd come home with a shoebox filled with business cards, and I'd say, "Look how good I did." When really I didn't do anything. I so now I suggest in a 3 or 4 hour event that you come home with 15 or 20 business cards because then you're building that relationship. When you're speaking to people and you're listening to them, you're invoking the form, you're speaking about their husband, wife, sister, brother, son, daughter, whatever, and about the recreation, where they like to ski, to boat, do you like the Major League Baseball, whatever. So you're having to build them up. And as a final note, after you're finished, say, I like you. I like what you're doing. How can I make you more successful? How can I be a good referral source for you? And that usually
Yeah.
blows them away. He goes, I don't even know what you do yet. And you're here trying to help me. Yes, because if you go to a networking event with nothing in mind except for helping people, it takes all that pressure off your shoulders and you go in with a clear head.
I agree, absolutely. Let me ask you this question, if I can. In your book, Networking Unleashed, what's one principle that surprises people but has the biggest impact?
Well, I have to go back to the no talking, the no speaking. You're there to help somebody else. You're not there to unload. If you sell widgets and you have to sell 3 widgets before you leave, that's a different story. But if you're in a relationship business, you have to go there and solve the problem. You're not going to do that by speaking. You have to listen to what they say. You have to see what problem they have. You have to see how you can solve their problem.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's it. If you look at it in its simplicity, it's why we Google things, right? We have a pain. We have a discomfort. We want to know the answer to a question. That may be going away, and now we chat GPT it. So people are using Google less and actually going to ChatGPT more to get a more, if you will, comprehensive answer. So it's a very, very interesting dynamic. But again, it goes back to what can I do to help you? How can I help you solve your problem? Let me ask, can you share a real world story where a single conversation or connection changed someone's business trajectory? Do you have a scenario, Mike, where you participated in and they changed the way they came to the table?
Well, it's funny because I ask the very same question when I'm the host. I have that in my line of questioning. So I want to remind people that when they go to a networking event, you're not just talking to those people, but you're talking to their network. One time when I was speaking with somebody, I didn't think that anybody in the room needed my services, but I spoke like they did. Well, that one person spoke to somebody else and they said, hey, you know what? I need somebody like that. So they got back in touch with me. They said, look, you spoke with my friend at the chamber event, and I just want to know, are you available to speak with me? Yes. And that proved to be a single person in a company. And I wound up coaching 5 of their mid-level managers. Yeah.
It's always great when you do one thing and it blossoms into others. And again, it's all about building that relationship. So well done. You've had a career that spans the military, law, banking, and entrepreneurship. How has each shaped your approach to building relationships?
That was all before life. That was my school of hard knocks. But I'll tell you, the military taught me because I was in my 20s and I had to tell people in their 30s what to do because I outranked them. So I
Right.
had to tell them in a certain way. I can't just walk up to them and say, look, you do this. They turn around and say, all right, but no. It would be very difficult. So I had to learn how to strategically ask them what to do. When I became a sales manager of a sales team, I had 15 loan officers, each with a different personality. So I had to treat each one differently. As a sales director in a law practice, to teach people differently. Most importantly, when I was a restaurant owner, I had employees, customers, and vendors. I wanted the same thing from all of them, but I had to approach it all in different ways. And one thing I learned was you have to treat your employees well, right? Because if they're not 100% happy, then how can you expect them to treat your customers 100% happy?
No, I absolutely agree. For many years, we heard take care of the customer, even, and too many people misinterpreted that meant stepping on your employees in order to take care of the customer. Later on, there was this realization. I don't know why it took them so long, to be honest about it. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of the customers. When I was in the Navy, a young boot officer, the first thing I learned as a naval officer was take care of your people and your people will take care of you. It became a major theme of my book. Take care of your people and they will take care of you. It means tell them all the news, the good news, the bad news.
Tell them all the
And
news.
right.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
you have to, that you're the leader. Your job is to be honest, truthful. It's all about the trust. Trust is the fuel that runs the engines of every organization. Go ahead, Mike. I know you want to say something. Go ahead.
You bring up leadership. And in all of my different jobs, I always had the leadership. But I took leadership as training other leaders, right? If they don't know all the jobs, give them a little bit of responsibility and have them take that responsibility and run with it. You're not training leaders, you become a boss. And you just tell them what to do. A leader goes down in the trenches with them. They show them how to do it. They tell them what to do and everything else. And then they let them go and give them that little bit of responsibility where they make those decisions. One thing I learned in the military was make a decision. Right or wrong, make a decision. If you're right, wonderful. If you're wrong, we'll fix it. But
Right.
make a decision, because the worst thing that can happen is that you don't make a decision. I was a police officer in the Air Force, and I had to make split-second decisions, but I had to make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is this, and I've mentioned this before on previous podcasts. There is this thinking, I think, I don't know if I suspect it's still prevalent in the civilian world, if you will, that all military people do is run around barking orders. Of course, it makes good drama on television. But what I learned in my military services was the art and the spirit of collaboration, truly, where you may be the senior person, and instead of saying, do this, you say, Chief, how should we do this? Right? You know that. Which way do we want to go on this? Let's talk about this. Let's compare notes. And yeah, I like that idea. Let's do that. But here's what we have to be concerned about. If you keep your eye on this and we go down that road, we're good. I think a lot of people don't have that appreciation, I think, for, except military guys, except us. In all the services, say, hey, you know what? You got to work with your people. You got to take care of your people, because if they abandon you, if you have no trust with them, you're done. It's over. I truly appreciate that, and I think it's right on the money. Again, it goes to take care of your people, and your people will take care of you. So I absolutely agree with that. And I think when you take this sort of collaborative approach, I'd love to get your opinion on this. It's going to become even more important in this age of AI. We think technology is going to solve all the problems. And my answer is no. It will solve some. It will do the redundant stuff. But the creativity stuff is going to be to teams who can develop prototypes, rapid prototyping, or who can develop pilot programs to test new ideas, even in this hyper-technological world. I'll kick it over to you. What do you think?
Well, AI is a tool. It's one of many tools that you have. You'll never get rid of the human interaction because we're human, right? So we need that interaction. But AI is just a tool. When it comes to being in charge of a team or anything else like that, one thing that I always pride myself on is that I said, look, you have a problem with whatever we're doing? That's fine. Don't come to me with a problem without a solution. So come to me with a problem, but bring me a solution to the problem, and we'll talk about it and we'll see which way to go. But don't come to me and just complain. So, that element, that human element, we're not taking out of it, but AI is a tool. And at least for the next 10 years, AI will be just a tool. And that's the way that I run everything.
The way I've been describing it lately is this. When computers came on the scene 30 years ago, I remember when browsers were just coming online, and you could see pictures on your CRT, never mind LCD.
Right. When it was just green and amber. with the two monitor screens.
That's exactly right. Well, the difference was back then, people were the constant and the computers became the variable. Those people who accepted computers, started using computers, started gaining in productivity and efficiency and effectiveness because they started early. They became what they call the early adopters. But today, computers are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. So computers are the constant and people become the variable. How do people use computers? What creativity do they bring to a particular application, for example? I believe in the next 5 years, this is exactly what's going to happen with AI. People are the constant, but AI is the variable. Whoever begins to adopt AI, use AI. I use it myself. I use ChatGPT to help me flesh out ideas, create pathways, and do editing in 5 years. AI will be ubiquitous. AI will be the constant, and people will be the creatives, how people choose to use it. I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Well, absolutely. When computers first came in, I was a systems engineer with Apple. That's when we had the Mac Lisa, the SE80s, and all this kind of stuff. So my wife's a graphic designer, and she's been a graphic designer for 45 years. So when the Macs first came in, it's like, oh, they're going to get rid of the entire design field because everybody can do it themselves. So at the desktop publishing, right? That was what everybody can do. Then all of a sudden they realize, well, that's great that people can put graphics together, but they don't have the thought process of making it a design. So designers were needed, right? So they had to go through that little bit of a learning process. AI is the same way. We're going through a little bit of a learning process, and then all of a sudden people will get it, and then, okay, so then the person will become the constant and the AI will be the variable and vice versa. It
Right,
just has to work its time, has to work it through. And now who
right.
knows what we're going to get next, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just the way things happen. No matter how much technology affects our lives, in the end, it's always about the people. Mundane tasks will be greatly alleviated so that we can do more creativity. It will lead us to different places. There are nefarious people that will do nefarious things. They will be threats to us, and we have got to form up a very strong response to that, or prevention and response. I'm not just in the prevention mode here. The best defense is a great offense, and I think we have to keep that in mind. That yeah, there's going to be that. The other thing that worries me or concerns me is the ethical issues associated with AI. How is it making a decision? What kind of information is it using to put into what it presents to you? And is the training wide? Is it a wide view on training rather than being channeled down one area? Any thoughts on that?
I think it's up to the person, just like any computer, it's up to what the input is. So it's up to the person on how either nefarious they are or anything else like that. But listen, if you can use AI for mathematical equations, for what to do, for a general direction, everything else, that's all good people doing this. But there are those bad people that are saying, well, take this. So I wonder how you can get his credit card number if you do this. And so there's good and bad throughout everything. But I
Right.
believe that AI is a good thing because I think more good will come out of it than bad. And hopefully one will overtake the other. It's progress. And the country is going forward in progress. And we can't be left behind. We have to go headfirst into this. And the only thing is that we have to be better.
So I've got to ask you this question because I think it's going to be very interesting from your perspective. Here we are, Mike. We're marching swiftly into the era of AI and human collaboration. Tell me how, using the most powerful force on earth, imagination, you see AI and networking, what you do on your networking perspective, philosophy, and tools merging, or let me say it better, complementing one another in the future. How do you see that, Mike?
Well, AI will be great for social media, right? It'll be great for posting, it'll be good for imagery, but you can't just let AI post something for you and not look at it. You have to look at it and say, change this, change that. For networking events, AI will be great in what people see and what they have to go through and do, but it's not going to remove that personal networking touch. As I said in the beginning, we're human beings. We need that human touch. When you walk into a room, you pick up a vibe of the room, a vibe of the people, and you get excited and you get, okay, this is great when everything else. You're not going to pick that up. You can have 1,000 people up on Zoom, but you're not going to get the same effect. I do both virtual workshops and in-person workshops. And the difference between the two is that because I can do things with the people in the room that I can't do with people on Zoom, right? I don't think that AI is going to replace networking, but it'll work in conjunction and it'll help the people that really want the help forward.
I agree. As far as AI is concerned, just jump in. The best advice I heard was pick one and learn it. Just pick one and learn it, and whatever one you want. They're a number, and they're fairly inexpensive, $20 a month, or that's what I have on ChatGPT, for example, and it's been incredibly helpful. I want to ask this question, Mike, and maybe we'll leave the conversation here after your answer. I'm sure you know that there are people who find it difficult or are somewhat reluctant to network. They have to become more extroverted than perhaps they would like to be. Do you have any advice for people who come from that sort of perspective, who need a hand up in terms of how to begin and use networking?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, this is part of my talk when I go out and talk on stages and in workshops. It's introverts versus extroverts. Everything that we've talked about so far is basically for an extrovert. Walking into a networking event, talk with people, whatever, right? And I always say, go alone because you don't want to share your time. You don't want to take your mind off of the other people. You don't want that, right? However, if you're introverted, cancel. Bring somebody with you that truly knows you very well. So when you walk up to the networking table, you're doing everything the same way. You're listening for the conversation. Is this a conversation I want to be part of? Yes, it is. Okay. The conversation is coming around. Say, Michael is an expert in that. He knows exactly what to do. Michael, what do you think about that? And then, because that's like an invitation to the table. And that gives you a good feeling of, okay, I could do this. And you say what you want to say. And with the two or three people that directed their conversation towards you, the same way, it's kind of like a buffer system. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to become an extrovert after one show, but two, three, four shows down the road with that, I call it a wingman because in the Air Force, I was in the Air Force, having your wingman there, you will say, okay, this is the third networking event. I'm going to try it without you. It'll give him the courage because the first thing about networking you need to know is confidence. You need to have that confidence. The introverts may have that confidence, but not for everybody. So I think that having a wingman will build that confidence up and they can begin.
Mike, that is the greatest advice. I mean, that is simple yet profound. And I don't know if I've ever heard anyone express that before. You just bring someone with you that helps that individual get over the scariness of being more extroverted. Someone who knows you, someone who can help traverse that threshold to get you past the initial reluctance to step out and network. And then eventually, once you see how it's done, once you gain a level of confidence with it, you can go out and do it yourself. I'm on that team. That is just absolutely great. Mike, this has been a wonderful opportunity to speak with you. I appreciate you being here today on the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I wish you, your speaking business, your training business, and your family the absolute best in the future. Thank you so very much.
You are most welcome. And if somebody wanted to get hold of me, they can just go to my website, michaelaforman.com. There's a contact form. You'll see the zillions of podcasts I was on, my book. You can get everything from my website.
Great. I will make sure I put that link in the show notes when it's published. Fair enough?
Absolutely. Fair enough.
Thanks, Mike. Have a good day.